Assalamualaikum and a very good day to Dr. Bakar. In this video, I will be presenting on my individual lesson plan for assignment 2 for the subject LHE4210, Teaching of Writing Skills. My name is NURUL BINTI ZAHARIN and my metric number is 192929. Without further ado, we'll be covering on the background of the lesson. For this lesson, I chose Form 2 students at the advanced level of proficiency. And the total number of students for this lesson is 30. And for this lesson, I will be conducting a non-textbook based narrative creative writing on the theme of people and culture. So for the topic of this activity, or the topic of this lesson plan is to for the students for the topic is creative short story. So in this lesson, I will be conducting a lesson where students will be choosing random words for them to generate or come up with a draft of a short story. So for this topic, I will be elaborating on it later in different slide. So for the language or grammar focus that I will be focusing in this lesson is vocabulary skills. So the writing strategies that I chose for this lesson are brainstorming and free writing. The students already have prior knowledge on literary devices, which is plot. And the main skills for both content and learning standard that I will be focusing for this lesson are, of course, writing, and the complementary skills are speaking. Next, the materials or references that I will be using in this lesson are whiteboards, marker pens, flow map or flow chart of any kind, and then boxes. There will be 4 different kind of boxes, and papers, and of course a PowerPoint slide. And for the cross-curricular element, I have chosen collaborative and communication. For higher order thinking skills or HOT, the students are going to create. And for the thinking process that I've chosen for this lesson is, of course, flow map that I have mentioned earlier in the materials. And for the 21st century classroom teaching and learning, the students will be doing a round table and present their draft of their short story. Next, for the learning objectives, the students will write a draft of their short story, and then they will apply the suitable usage of literary devices, which is plot, in their draft. And then they will make connections with random words that are picked randomly by themselves. This is what I have mentioned earlier in the topic. So we will be discussing about the activity later in the next slide. And then for the success criteria, the students will write a draft of their short story up to 80% completion with the help of teaching aids. Why did I set up for only 80%? It is because that the time limit for the students to carry out this activity is very restricted and limited. So I think it is impossible for them to complete at a completion of 100%. Maybe they will be maybe I will let them to do, maybe this will be a take-home task for them if they are not able to complete it by the time limit. And the students will apply the suitable usage of literary devices, which is plot, in their draft with the help of teacher aids. And lastly, they will make connections with random words and build up grammatically correct sentences in time period of 5 minutes in a group. So moving on to the pre-lesson of this lesson plan. For the set induction, I will conduct the introduction for not more than 5 minutes. So the teacher will greet the class and ask about the students, about how was their day and whether they are in a good health condition. The teacher will tells the student that they will learn about writing a random short story, or in other words, creative short story. And the teacher will ask the students about the previous lesson on story plot, whether they remember it or not. And then the teacher introduces the topic of the lesson to the students. And then the teacher states the learning objectives for today's lesson to the class. Lastly, the teacher will explain her expectations from the students through the lesson. So the rationale for this stage is mainly to prepare the students on the topic that they are going to learn in this lesson, and obviously to activate students' schemata on the previous lesson that is going to be implemented in this lesson. Moving on to the next stage, which is the pre-writing stage for the lesson development. So this will be carried out in not more than 10 minutes. First, the teacher will show a few familiar movie pictures to the students in a PowerPoint slide. And then the teacher will activate the students' prior knowledge with the plot structure of the movie, and then show an example of a plot structure of the movie that was discussed earlier. For an example, I will show a picture of a white door that has a pink flowers drawn on the door, and the students will be like, oh, I know this movie, I've watched it before, this is Monster Inc. And then they will apply it, oh, for Monster Inc. What happened in the movie? Well, for example, the teacher will ask for a specific part of the plot. For example, what happened at the falling action of the movie, and then the teacher will show an example of a familiar character in the movie, but in a different story plot. For example, if I connect the character, for example, the character Boo, the little girl in pink shirt, what will happen if her character it does not revolve in the same story plot? What will happen if the story plot revolves differently? And the rationale for this stage is mainly to allow the students to brainstorm on ideas to apply on the next activity, and to activate students' schemata on familiar story plot in a movie and the plot structure. And next, to allow students to familiarize themselves with the topic that is going to be taught. For the lesson development in the writing stage, the time limit for this activity is only for 20 minutes. First, the teacher will divide the students into 6 groups of 5, and then the teacher will ask for volunteers in each group to come up in front and choose random character names, nouns, verbs, and adjectives in 4 different boxes. So there will be 4 different boxes. Each boxes have different words. So because of different words, they will come up with different short story in a different group. So teacher asks the students to come up with a short story based on the random character names, nouns, verbs, and adjectives into their short story. And then teacher will show an example on how the activity should be carried out and the format of the short story verbally. Next, each group will present their short story ideas in front of the whole class at the end of the lesson. So the teacher will remind them that they will need to finish and they will need to complete the task by the end of the class. They need to finish their task and then present in front of the whole class. For the continuation of this writing stage, and then the teacher will distribute the A3 size whiteboard and markers for students to present their draft in class. Why do I use this A3 size whiteboard? Because uh, the time limit for this activity is kind of short, and I didn't want the students to waste any more paper. And also, it would be fun for students to venture on their creativity, uh, the activity by writing in a mini size whiteboard. And then the teacher will ask the students to discuss with their group members and do a flow map of their short story. And while they're doing their task, the teacher will facilitate each group and guide them to execute the activity. So the rationale for this stage is because that collaborative task helps students to communicate with team members to carry out the task. The students are able to express their ideas freely with their peers and then share their opinions, their ideas freely with their team members. And then students are able to relate to their knowledge about plot in movies and apply it to complete the task. This is what I have said earlier, that the students will relate to the topic of this lesson, and then they will connect on how they are they are able to complete the task. And then the examples given by the teacher may help them to may help to guide the students on the correct way to generate complete sentences. So because the students are in advanced level of proficiency, so there should be no problem for them to complete the task. Or if there should be a intermediate or low level in this class, the advanced students in a group will be able to help them to guide them to complete the task together. Moving on to the lesson development in the rewriting stage. In this stage, the time limit for them to complete the task is for only 20 minutes. So when they are done with their task, the teacher will ask every group to present their drafts in front of the class. And then they will come up front and present their drafts to their friends. And after they have presented their drafts of the short story to the whole class, and then the teacher will give instant feedback on the content and idea of their drafts. And then the teacher will discuss the whole draft with the whole class, so that the whole class will get the idea on what the group is trying to deliver. So the rationale of this activity is for the students that presenting in groups in front of the whole class may help them to feel less anxious and helps them to build their confidence, because some of the students may be a bit less outspoken to or less confident for them to express their ideas. So maybe they will be depending on the more outspoken friend in the group. And then teacher giving instant feedback to the students will help them to be encouraged to edit their work. Lastly, for the post-lesson or closure, this will be conducted in only 5 minutes, just the same as the set induction. The teacher will ask the students to complete writing the short story in full paragraphs and submit it in the next class. The teacher will summarize the whole lesson and recall back the lesson that they have learned um, today. And then the teacher asks the students for their feedback of the lesson. And after that, the teacher will end the lesson. And the teacher will end the lesson. The rationale of this stage is to find out students' feedback on the lesson. This is very important for teachers to improve their teaching styles in the future, and this enables students to individually develop and complete their short story according to their style of writing. So they have their drafts, so they will continue on to take this as a take-home task for them to um, freely express their ideas more and then complete the task. And this is for them to encourage them to freely express their thoughts about this class. So this is the presentation slide that I will show to the whole class, which is mainly to guide them on what is going to happen, how the activity will be conducted. The teacher will ask, when you look at this, you have recognized this movie. So what do you think happened in the movie? For example, what do you think happened in the climax of this movie? So when the students respond with their answers, the teacher will discuss, oh yes, at the climax, this happens and this happens. And then for this picture, uh, showed Narla, a character in Finding Nemo. So, and then when the students, they recognize that this movie is called Finding Nemo. So, the teacher will discuss with the students on the plot structure of the movie. And then the teacher will show them how to conduct this activity. So the first instruction is this. They will choose 3 random character names, nouns or verbs and adjectives in each 4 different boxes. So they will need to come up with a short story based on the random character names, nouns, verbs and adjectives into their short story. For example, the teacher will give an example on how to do this particular task. So for example, the character name is Mrs. Potts, Voldemort, and Genie, and the verbs is jump, strike, and drink. Nouns are the coffee, shower, and bed. The adjectives are pretty, rainy, and swollen. So how exactly they are going to generate a whole new sentence, or for them to generate a draft of their short story. So, for an example, the teacher shows how they are going to generate a new sentence. For in this case, uh, Vol Voldemort had his nose swollen when he drank a cup of coffee prepared by Mrs. Potts on a rainy day. He quickly jumped and grabbed his wand to strike a rock shower against her, but accidentally awoken Ginny from his deep sleep on a bed with a pretty flowery pattern sheets. So this is an example on how they are going to generate a new sentences based on the random words that they have chosen for each different groups. So the next step is for them to use the flow map to develop the draft of their short story and apply those words that they have chosen into different parts of the plot. For example, in the expository, rising action, climax, falling action, and the denouement. So this is the flow chart, flow map that the students will be filling in this, filling their ideas in this um, flow map. So this flow chart, the teacher will print it and then laminate it for them, to, okay, in this flow chart, the teacher will give them in a form of uh, laminated, printed and laminated for them to freely to write on top of it with a uh, mark marker pens for them to be able to wipe it when there are mistakes. So this is very easy so that they won't have to cross it with a pen or cover it with liquid paper. So that is considered as very stressful for them. So why not? I just give them in a form of a laminated, uh, a, in the form of uh, whiteboards. And then the next step that is each group will present the draft of their short story in front of the whole class. So basically, this is all with the presentation of my video of my individual lesson plan. Thank you for listening, and thank you for lending your time to view this lesson plan. Thank you and have a good day.